Welcome back, my dear followers. This is the history of the American Mafia, the true story of the American Mafia, written and adapted to podcast by Fabio Fabiano, read and translated by me, Grace Catalisi. I hope you enjoy this new episode. The Fatal Mission. Theodore Bingham had put together a special team to eradicate the Black Hand and had obtained funds through a press campaign in order to do so. But behind this project, Theodore was actually working on another idea. The councillor, in fact, was developing Petrosino's plan to stop the flow of criminals emigrating from Italy to the USA. The police department had to send the Italian-American policemen to Italy to consult the criminal records in search of the offenders who had actually already emigrated to America. With this information, they could expel all the criminals that had been in America for less than 3 years, according to the 1907 law. Furthermore, he was to collect the list of the names of the most dangerous criminals in Italy in order to block them on Ellis Island and prevent them from entering the USA. The third goal to be achieved would have been to establish an intelligence service in Italy to update the American government on Italian criminals arriving in America. Petrosino also understood the links between the criminal organizations operating in the USA and the ones present in Italy. The intertwining of the Black Hand and Italian politics was clear to him. In addition to Bingham's approval and departmental funding, Petrosino had the support of Roosevelt and had received additional funding from some bankers, including J.P. Morgan and Rockefeller, who at that point were seriously alarmed by the growing phenomenon of the counterfeiting of banknotes and bank bonds. Before his departure, his colleagues from the Italian squad met him to offer him some advice and to warn him of the dangers he could encounter once arriving in southern Italy. At that point in his life, Petrosino, who was now 49 years of age and after 25 years of honourable service, would have preferred to stay home and enjoy the joys of family life, take care of his child Adelina. But he couldn't abandon a mission he himself had conceived and considered as one of the most important missions in his career, as it was aimed to eradicate the Black Hand permanently. Despite his show of confidence to the public, he didn't take the situation lightly, and before leaving, he also considered the possibility that he could be murdered. He went to a lawyer where he signed a power of attorney in favour of his wife Adelina to allow her to receive the due allowance in the event of his death. On February 9, 1909, the head of the newborn Secret Service squad of New York Police Department embarked undercover on the ship the Duke of Genoa. It was a 145-metre steamship, and Petrosino reached Italy under the false name of Simone Velletri. He landed in Genoa in February, exactly on the 21st, and from there he went to Rome. He stayed at the England Hotel under another false name, Guglielmo Simone, and made contact with Giolitti's chief of staff, Camillo Piano, and met the police chief Francesco Leonardi. After the meetings, the chief of the Italian police gave him a document in which he ordered all the commissioners to give him access to the information that he required. Later, he went back to his hometown Padula, where he met his brother Michele. Petrosino asked his brother for the utmost discretion regarding his presence in Italy. His brother, astonished by his request, showed him a copy of the New York Herald newspaper in which the chief of police, Theodore Bingham, had made the mission public on February 20th, 1909, putting Petrosino in a situation of grave danger. Strongly disappointed by the article and Bingham's declarations, probably given to gain visibility, for it was highly possible that the New York police chief was waiting for a candidacy, Petrosino set off once again, this time for the city of Palermo. He arrived there on the 28th of February at 7 in the morning, travelling on a mail coach from Naples. In the city, he took a room, number 16, in the luxurious Hotel de France in Piazza Marina, under the false name of Simone Valenti. He opened an account at the commercial bank, then he rented a Remington typewriter in order to transcribe the criminal records and personal information of those he had come to investigate in Sicily. After settling in, he went to Palazzo Pecorino in Piazza Castelnuovo, where he met the American consul William Bishop, and in the following days he began his activity in the court archives. There he obtained information on the various criminals present in America and telegraphed them immediately to Bingham, who at this point was able to expel them from the American state. On the 6th of March, he contacted the police commissioner of Palermo, Commander Baldassare Cedola, and the police commissioner Luigi Poli. The senior official offered him an armed escort, as Giovanni Giolitti had suggested. Unfortunately, Petrosino had the erroneous belief that in Sicily the mafia did not dare to touch the police, as in New York, and he refused. The commissioner, after his death, stated that this was an imprudence, almost inexplicable in such a celebrated detective. In reality, his refusal of an escort had a valid reason. Petrosino, on his arrival in Sicily, paid a series of informants who would have revealed the secrets of the mafia and gave him information about the criminals who were already in America. Obviously, these confidants would never have approached him if he were to be escorted by the police. Petrosino also confirmed his suspicions on the relations between mafia and politics, as he had recognized the faces of men he had investigated in America on candidates' posters for the upcoming political elections that were to be held in Sicily shortly. A theory proven with the victory of Giovanni Giolitti in all the Sicilian constituencies, supported by the alkalites of Don Cascioferro. On Friday, the 12th of March, 1909, Petrosino dined at the Hotel de France when someone approached his table and immediately left. The investigator quickly finished his dinner and left the restaurant. 4 revolver shots were heard in Piazza Marina, in Palermo. They were the ones that ended the life of the Italian-American hero. It was thought that an anonymous letter was delivered to Petrosino while he was dining, telling him to reach Garibaldi's monumental statue in the square for information about Cascioferro. But once he arrived there, he was ambushed by 3 men. The news was sent by telex to the American Associated Press in Manhattan at 4:15 a.m. on March the 13th, with the following message. Yesterday evening in Piazza Marina, in the center of Palermo, the American Lieutenant Giuseppe Petrosino, who was in town to carry out the investigation into the branching of the Black Hand in Sicily on behalf of the New York Police Department, was shot and killed. The news had also been officially announced by the American consul by telegram. Petrosino's death was originally treated with suspicion by US journalists, considering it an attempt to increase sales by causing a sensation, and only later they realized it was true. The Italian government raised a sum of 10,000 lire, almost 40,000 euros today, to give to anyone who would provide information about the murder in order to solve the case. But the fear of the mafia prevailed. The investigations into the murder were entrusted to Commissioner Baldassare Cedola and were followed closely by Rome. The Italian Prime Minister himself was personally interested in the case, as relations with the USA were being compromised. Although probably not the material executor, it was most likely that the person responsible for the murder was the boss of Bisacquino, Vito Cascioferro, whose name was at the top of a list of criminals drawn up by Petrosino and found in his hotel room. When Cascioferro was arrested on March 13th, a photograph of Petrosino was found on him. The Godfather had an airtight alibi because on the days from the 6th to the 14th of March, he was in Burgio, a guest at the home of the Italian Parliament congressman Domenico De Michele Ferrantelli. It was also suspected that there was a connection between the death of Petrosino and some criminals belonging to the New York clan of Giuseppe Pido Morello, known for their alleged connections to the case of the murder of the barrel. Two members of this gang had in fact returned to Sicily in the same period of Petrosino's trip, remaining in contact with the New York boss. Castroferro was also arrested on suspicion but later released on November the 16th. In 1926, Vito Castroferro was handcuffed by the prefect Mori and then sentenced to life imprisonment. Fascism had made Petrosino its hero. Palermo's commissioner had already stated in his report on the 28th of April 1909 that those who had ordered the murder were particularly important elements of the criminal organization. Another theory taken into consideration regarded Morello and Giuseppe Fontana, who had emigrated to America after being acquitted for the murder of Emanuele Notarbartolo in 1893. Notarbartolo had reported cases of corruption present in the Bank of Sicily and was murdered as a consequence. According to this theory, Fontana had joined the Morello gang in the States and had turned to Vito Castroferro to organize the lieutenant's murder. As well as him, the 15 men indicated in Petrosino's list were arrested, including Carlo Costantino and Antonio Passanante. But the judiciary, with the sentence of the second section of the Appeal Court of Assizes in Palermo, issued on the 22nd of July 1911, closed the case by acquitting the defendants for lack of evidence. It wasn't until 2014 that the investigation into the murder of Petrosino came to a turning point. During the anti-mafia operation Apocalypse, which was 105 years after the terrible date of the murder, the special police unit of the Guardia di Finanza, the financial guards of Palermo, intercepting Domenico Palazzotto, recorded these words: "My father's uncle was Paolo Palazzotto. He murdered the first policeman to be killed in Palermo, Joe Petrosino, on behalf of Castroferro. The body, embalmed by Professor Giacinto Vetere, on the 18th of March, left for New York on the Slavonia steamship. It arrived at its destination on April the 9th. Joe Petrosino was the first policeman to become victim of the mafia." On April the 12th, Petrosino's funeral took place in New York. His body passed Fifth Avenue. It was the largest funeral New York had ever seen. About 250,000 people participated. Entire police departments escorted the funeral procession, following the coffin of the first Italian to have the badge of a city police. No one before him had ever received such a tribute. For his sacrifice, Petrosino received the Gold Medal for Civil Merit in Memory, awarded on April the 9th, 2008, on the following grounds. Brave and determined policeman, engaged in a difficult mission to discover the links between the Sicilian mafia and that of New York, was killed with 4 shots fired in the back by an unknown hitman in a cowardly ambush. Radiant example of electric civic virtues and an elevated spirit of service to the point of extreme sacrifice.